Okay, slightly quick weekly news this week before we head out to get the car MOT'd. What's been going on? Well, I had a touch of COVID, but luckily I'd had my 4th booster 10 days ago, so really hardly noticed it. But you can probably tell from my voice, bit husky now from the remnants of it, but absolutely fine. So in the workshop, Alan's rally engine is ready to go back to Alan. So that's all built up and done. Kind of pleased with that one. We found quite a few things that were awry with it. Down here, this piston was condemned by Scholar as being excessively worn. That's number 2. They'd done something slightly nasty here on the heater transfer pipe. As you can see, they hadn't inserted it properly and decided the solution was to cut open the washer eye just here rather than actually fixing the problem. Rather nasty timing pulley there, crankshaft pulley. You can see the damage done on that. What else? Okay, the usual heavy grooving on the crankshaft boss there where the seal goes, so that gets replaced. When they refreshed the engine, I would say that was the original oil pump. They hadn't put in a new oil pump. So really, this rebuilt engine that Alan had paid for was a refreshed engine, and a rather gently refreshed engine at that. But now it's one of my engines, a full rally motor. So there's that one. Whilst we're on the topic of engines, so Colin's engine, which ran bearings in Sahara, that's all up and running and rather lovely again. So we're just heading out in a minute to get the car MOT'd. Hasn't been MOT'd, this car, which is wrong. There is absolutely no doubt about it in the UK. If you have a modified car, it has to be MOT'd. So although he's got away with it at scrutineering in the rallies, this car legally should have an MOT, and it is slightly questionable as to what the insurance company might have considered the legality of it. So whenever a car leaves us, it gets an MOT. That's just the way we are. That's the way it's going to be. Okay, but third engine is Amy's. You may recall Amy's 140 down here. I haven't actually ripped it open yet, but Amy is absolutely convinced that she's blown a piston. But more to the point, this of course is a 68 car, so therefore running a 2 litre. And for historic rallying, if she puts a B18 into it, as the car was first supplied in 1967, then she becomes a Cat 1 car. And so therefore she has asked me to build up as nice a B18 as I can. She was offered a 2.3 litre B18, i.e. stroked and bored, and I pointed out that I'd never yet built an illegal engine, and I certainly wasn't planning to run one on a car that was so obviously my car. Having discussed that, Amy agreed with me, and we're building one of my B18s that is legal. So there it is, a late block. How can you tell it's a late B18? Because it's got the 2 bosses for the alternator bracket here, and it has the bracing aluminium bolts here for the bracing, whereas the early has neither of those. It just has a little steel plate to cover the flywheel. Okay, so that's in hand. This is a sad one here, Frank. Frank drove over from Holland yesterday to go off down to the West Country, half an hour off the Harwich Ferry, i.e. Bury St Edmunds, so just down the road from us, an hour away. Nasty noises from his engine. In discussion with Emma, we concluded that the likelihood was that it was the timing gear, but the description didn't sound quite right. Anyway, the AA brought the car to us. Sorry for the Americans, that's not Alcoholics Anonymous. They didn't bring the car to us. It is the Automobile Association that brought the car to us. And we fired it up, and we four of us concluded that it was actually big end bearings that have let go. So it's the big end slap going on down the bottom there, not timing gear, which means the car is in storage here. We reckon that Frank will be fine to drive it from here down to Harwich and get on the ferry again, and he and his mate are going to rebuild the engine. And to be honest, what I've said to Frank is, if it does die on the way down to Harwich, then I'll just come out and tow him, or I'll probably bring the trailer actually, and trailer him down to Harwich. So, yeah, that's sad. Poor bloke. It's his first continental trip, and it goes and the bearings let go. Very unusual, though. As I explained to him, the usual thing is timing gear. So that's Frank here, just staying for a couple of weeks. We gave him a ride back down to Bury St Edmunds, and he picked up a hire car, and his grand UK trip is back on again, although 500 quid more expensive for the car hire. What else? So we've just been doing some titivating on Craig's GT. This is a very nice car. We fitted some of those new alloy wheel trims. Those trims are not as nice as Volvo's original ones. The holes are slightly wrong, but they look pretty good. They look quite nice. So those went on. We tidied up some wiring. Just a couple of little titivating jobs there. And speaking of wiring and so on Colin's car, we replaced his white plastic reversing light with a Lucas WFT 576, which looks the biz, and we put an LED bulb in it. So now he's got some pretty good reverse lighting going on there now, and a few other jobs. Well, that's it really. Let's just go down and have a look at Amy's car. I've got to build up Amy's engine a bit sharpish. I don't like having cars dead in the workshop. In my opinion, a rally car has to be ready to go out and rally again within days of coming back for one. So I need to get on with that. As for this weekend, actually I'm seeing Amy and Neil, who just won his last night rally, as well as having won the Rally of the Test in the Type 44. We're seeing them tomorrow night, actually, because I'm up in Yorkshire for the last rally of the season for us, the Ilkley, with Gareth, back in the Volvo, thank heavens. No, shush, I shouldn't say that about the Volkswagen GTI. But no, it'll be nice to be in the Volvo. So that's where we'll head off tomorrow. Silky the yacht is still here. She should be going next month, I think. Lovely old yacht, that is. Gorgeous 1970s build. Well, there we go. Let's just say goodbye to the dogs, and we shall get back with you next week's news. Zip zips. Are you a happy dog? I think Zip Zips is a happy dog. It's filthy wet outside, by the way. That's why he looks slightly damp. But he's only slightly damp. We're quite a happy dog, aren't we? Okie doke. Deke is chewing on a bone somewhere. Can't quite see him. No, he's not. There he is. Deke. There we go. There is Deke the Brittany. And that's it for me. Okay, cheers guys. Bye-bye. Okay, it's time for the great reveal. What happened to Amy's engine on the Rally of the Tests? So we found some evidence whilst taking out the engine. One was one broken engine mount, implying the engine had been running rough beforehand, and particularly salient, two bolts that secure the airbox to the carburetors were missing, i.e. we're pretty sure we're going to find ingested bolts in this engine, caused, I would say, by rough running. That something was going on with the carburetors, the engine runs rough, we break a engine mount, the bolts, the carburetor, if you recall, the carburetor reservoir was loose on the front carb, so that's part of it, of the roughness, and the bolt is still there. So actually Colin didn't need to zip tie the reservoir to the carburetor, he could have just wound up the bolt, but that kind of needs you to know about these engines. So my belief is that when I take this head off, we're going to find a couple of bolts in there. And indeed we can see, looking along the valves, this one here is seriously stuffed. So probably we're going to find one bolt in number 4 piston. Let's have a look. Okay, we'll just pry the head off its gasket. There it goes. This is going to make me very sad, the sight we're going to see in here. There we go, one bolt neatly embedded in number 4 piston. Isn't that sad? And that, of course, raises a question of where the other bolt is. My guess, the other bolt has disappeared down here into the crankcase. Look at that. What a sad engine. What a sad engine. Well, my conclusions are slightly difficult here. I'm pretty sure had the car been prepped by us, we would have spotted that, because one of the things we would have been doing beforehand, because Amy had already said she was worried about the mixture, having run out of fuel on a night section on a previous event, unexpectedly. So we would have been, the airbox would have been off to check out the carburetors and to set the tuning, and at that point you'd immediately see that you had a loose bolt or two on the airbox. I think this failure is a failure of preparation. Having said that, of course, what it does mean is that from now on we shall be using Loctite on the airbox bolts. So that's a kind of good lesson. Wish it hadn't happened to my beautiful engine, but there we are. I'll think what we're going to do with this. In the meantime, I am building up Amy a new B18 motor to go in the 142 so that she's Cat 1 eligible. Well, since the 140 in 1967 was supplied with the B18 engine, it means that if I build up a legal B18 for her, then she is eligible to be Cat 1 in the 142, and therefore overall results in Rally of the Tests, of course. Well, there we go. Very sad end to that engine. I'm going to see if I can find some more correct pistons, and we shall see if we can rebuild her. It's, you know, there's... I don't think there's any scoring on that bore. It could even be as simple that we're going to hone it and put new pistons in. Well, we'll see. We'll see. Okay, that's it. Amy's engine, stuffed with extreme prejudice. Okay, so just to finish off on Amy's engine. So let's have a look at the carburetors, what we were saying about the reservoir had come loose there. and Callum had neatly zip tied it so it kind of stayed a bit more stable. But in fact, that behind the choke rod there, just there, that is the bolt, neatly retained by the choke rod. So in fact, we could have just tightened that up and sorted out the carburetors. Okay, but that's a minor point. So I've just gone in and popped out the, now recall we just had a look at the piston a moment ago. Here's the cylinder head, number 4. There we go, completely lost the valve head there, completely sheared off. Oh, and look at that hole into the head. That's a dead head, isn't it? Look at that hole. Crikey. Oh, that's such a sad head. Dear me. Yeah, there's no coming back from that, is there? Huh. Okay, and so I popped out the camshaft just to inspect that, and this is what I found. There we go. The camshaft retaining plate completely sheared off, so it had a heck of a thrust forward at some point, which then calls into question, well, to some extent it calls into question my rather gorgeous steel timing gears. Maybe I'll just look at those closely and inspect them, see if I can spot any damage on the teeth, because that's a genuine set of Volvo B30 steel timing gears. And there is the camshaft and followers. Now, obviously, the number 8 follower is the one that took a big impact, enough to shear off the top of the head of the valve. There's no damage to be seen there, but to be honest, the amount of stress we've put through that lobe and follower, I think I'm going to have to condemn that. So camshaft followers, a sorry state. Okay, there we go. That's I'm going to go and ponder that for a couple of days now before I order.